In life spanning, there is no plan B. I'm Jean Fallacara, and my guests are coming to this podcast for a reason. There's no rules, no BS, just pure biohacking. I don't want to know what you have to sell. I want to know who you are. Greatest friends. I've met Amitay in the biohacking industry. This is where I met you, and I'm so glad that you're here today. Thank you for joining us on this discussion at the No Plan B podcast. So Amitay, my great friend, is the CEO of Youngos, the famous biohacking skincare, not cosmetic, skincare product line. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jean. I think this is one of the most sincere, the pleasure is all mine, that have been said throughout history. So,
Thank you. Yeah, so awesome. Every time we are together, we spend time, not only philosophy, but deep thinking and high level, trying to redo the world in another way, in the manner that drives us to make this world better. So, my dearest friend, I would like you to start a short introduction of yourself, because it's going to be way better if you do it than if I do it. I don't want to miss any parts. And after that, we're going to jump right into your story.
Let's go. So my name is Amitay Eshel, CEO, co-founder of Young Goose. As you said, the world's first biohacking skincare brand, founder of the first consultancy for biohacking facilities called Hormesis. One of the first people in the red light therapy space, and retired head of recon for Israeli Land Commando, and was in a few think tanks throughout my time around healthcare. So this is me in a nutshell. 37 years old, and friend of Jean Fallacara. Not single, married.
Not single, married.
Not single at all.
With a kid.
With a newborn. A biohacker, health enthusiast, redliner.
Forefront fighter, whatever. It's your mindset that made us become this great friend. The short story is we were at the Biohacking Congress, and our booth was next to not next, but close to each other. And we just met there. We started to talk, and a few hours later, we were still talking. And we were exchanging, and the mindset of Amitay just aligned perfectly with my vision of this world and the accomplishment and what a human can be in every aspect. It's not just the business aspect that counts. I think it's the approach that you have with people. And you're a very generous person with others. People around you are always happy to be around you.
Yeah.
That's the opposite of the military career, isn't it?
Yeah. And no, because if you think of especially special operations, and I think recently there was a lot of discussions around the world about different stuff about special operations and people assuming what it means. And really what special operations means is higher level of communication and responsibility taking. That is what it is. Everything else, as far as technical ability, is actually not measured so well and cannot be grown exponentially. I mean, I can only teach you so well how to shoot a weapon. So how you win in a close quarter encounter, and by the way, in a close quarter encounter, in a covert operations, in many different things. I was on the recon side, so how you don't get discovered. It's mainly through better communication, better collaboration, and that does require and more and as I said, more responsibility taking. And that is actually something that generosity and the sense of a team is actually, it's not that it's good to have, it's actually a prerequisite. If you're a soloist,
you cannot
in the American military, you can, because there are a lot of of jobs require kind of that Rambo single person type scenario, but not in a smaller. I would say, look, the whole idea of the Green Berets in America is interacting with local populations and other things that in the Israeli military there isn't any. So in a normal standard military special operations, you have to have a mentality that is conducive to be part of a team and collaborate.
Yeah, I remember Mark Devine, my good friend too, so special force in the US, the SEAL, Navy SEAL. So he was telling me that this is the team building is one of the crucial parameter. But let me ask you this question, like you're full of empathy and compassion, but at the end of the day, the career of soldier, and especially in special forces, is to kill people.
Well, actually not mine, because actually, so let me tell you, this is actually why I left.
Okay.
So I, from sheer luck, I was supposed to be in a standard team in our land commando, and through sheer luck, I got held back. I tore my labrum, and I had to go to rehab. And the what I got kind of allocated to afterwards was a recon team that was training, etc. And that is sheer luck, because Israel is such a small military. A lot of the teams are only being trained every so often, and other ones are not being. So it was sheer luck.
Okay.
And so in reconnaissance, in intelligence gathering, one of the things that the way you fail a mission is by shooting a weapon, if you think about it. Mm-hmm. So for the majority of my career, a weapon was not discharged even when we did encounter other forces. And this is stories that are hard a little bit due to like confidentiality to get into. But discharging a weapon was not actually one of the prerequisites. You needed to know how to do it extremely well, because you're not in a friendly territory most of the time. But this is not why this wasn't the main issue. And
the goal,
and when I did meet it is when I actually had a role outside of that team. And I realized that I am, and I'm sure this is a different topic, but I am a person that has a very cynical view about free will and about
tell me more.
The predominance of free will and the effect of free will on our life. I think I had to talk with Deepak Chopra about it, and he has a very lengthy point that he makes until he reaches free will. He ties it to quantum physics, etc., which I'm not sure he's right.
That.
Yeah, exactly. No offense. I don't want him to shoot quantum energy at me. No, I'm kidding. But
it's like when you don't have the words for explaining something, people are using quantum now,
or quantum or blockchain. Depends. Anyway, so having said that, and I think it's more than that. I think a lot of what we have is an innate sense of what is the truth, and then we justify it with words. If anyone wants to listen to the head of Meta AI and the way he defines what comes before language, I forget his name now. He's French. Do that. I think it will give you a lot of insight. But I innately, I'm not inclined to believe that free will plays a large role in our society. I'm not saying there's no such thing. I'm saying the factor in which it affects our life is pretty low.
Yeah. The influence from the exterior is pretty large.
Pretty large, yes. So innately, even though I was 23 at the time, 22, 23, I felt that given a different input, I would have been on the other side, because I was never, just try to imagine my military career. 99.9% of the time, I saw the other side through a lens, a physical lens, through an apparatus, through an image, through, even if I saw it with my own eyes, it did not see me. Yeah. I didn't see the human there so starkly, because it was when you're watching a screen or a lens, there is a dissonance there that happens.
Correct.
And seeing and being embedded it in a population and seeing something within my own eyes, I understood that I'm not saying who is right or who is wrong. By the way, I'm trying to avoid it when talking with people from outside of my experience sphere. Obviously, I think I'm right, by the way. Everyone has a
everyone
bias.
Thinks that is right.
Everyone.
And you cannot change any mindset, and you will never convince anyone to
100%.
that you are right. Yeah.
But within that, I will say that I understood how with different input I would have been on the other side.
Yeah, and I think that's a big effort. Yeah.
Yes, this is a big effort. If anyone wants to listen to a podcast named Martyr Made, the guy is also a Navy SEAL. I forget his name. He said kind of the same thing. His inclinations as a person that kind of runs forwards instead of running away, pro-violence, pro-aggression.
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah.
These characteristics, the same way you are a militant on your side, you would have been a militant on the other side as well. Yeah. So actually, it took about a year for these thoughts to form in my head and form thoughts from feelings and from observations from the subconscious. But that is the reason I didn't continue.
Do you consider yourself more intelligent than others?
Yes, but I'll tell you something.
You were 22 when you were making that.
Yes, but I want to say that 90% of people consider themselves more intelligent than others.
Of course.
So it doesn't.
It doesn't matter.
No.
A comical guy from France was saying intelligence is a very, very funny thing because it's the thing that you're supposed to measure with what you have in your head. Mm-hmm. Then you always think that you have enough.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There's a comedian that says to the same note, he says, I want to actually be a little bit stupider. I don't want to be so stupid I need assisted living. I want to live on my own, but I want to be just one grade above that. That way I think everything is amazing, everything is great.
It's true.
A lot of the times as a society we think moving forward. Actually, if you remember, you had a post where you had someone sleeping and a homeless sleeping outside of a mattress. Mattress store. And you said, did we fail as a society? And I answered no.
Yeah, I remember you were probably the only one answering that.
It was like 1%, 99%. Yeah. And I think it's a feature. I think it's a feature of society. Society always goes forward.
Yeah.
So the homeless was always there. The mattress store was not always there.
Yeah, good point.
The same way, I think being smart or wanting to be smart is a feature of progress, because you always want to be more, but it's not a feature of happiness, because the more you clever, the less happy you can be,
to a certain extent, to be honest. I think that when you reach a certain level of knowledge, and then it comes down to what you were saying about at the age of 22, 23, you come down to the point that you have self-awareness and knowledge. And this is where you start to find peace, because it's the only moment in your life where your intelligence brings you to the point where you realize that you're nothing except the accumulation of neuronal connection that are memories and learning and everything. And you cannot change what is in the past, what is in the future. And you realize that you're there in between these things. And this is where you find your happiness with your intelligence. But it takes so many people to get there. And some people call it wisdom. That goes with intelligence as well. But at the age of 22, 23, I wasn't aware like you were. Is it because you were exposed to a chaotic situation?
Yeah, yes, but also, yes. And a lot of the time you see people like Mike Tyson or Shaquille O'Neal, which people who knew them from, like I met someone who was with Shaq in high school, and they were saying how not intelligent he was. But obviously the guy is super intelligent or wise. We cannot attest to his intelligence, but both of them are very wise. And wisdom I call accumulated intelligence.
Correct.
So but in both cases, what you see is a person that just has more bits, more tokens, if we want to go from AI. So AI, process information is information by tokens. So they just have more tokens that they've processed, right? And I think this if you pose, that's why I kind of was hesitant to answer your question about am I smarter than other people, because I think it is situation based, it's scenario based, and it's also chemical based. It's like what kind of chemicals are present in your mind at that point. And I still, went out of the military and tried to have a bar in Tel Aviv and lost all the money I saved from the military. So what does it mean about me? Even the idea of opening a bar is stupid.
So
yeah. for
22,
me,
22, yeah, but for me too, I would say, but respect for these guys that are struggling there. But I mean, like 22, 23, your frontal cortex is not finished anyway, but you had still this judgment that brought you away from this situation. 22, 23, I was like a punk doing whatever extreme things that you can do in your life. He came to me late. I don't even know if it's already there, but
well, they say a person should always be ashamed of who he was 5 years ago. So
that's all right. Yeah, that's right. But well, look at you. I think that you can be proud from where you're coming 5 years ago. Look at the company you have.
That's true. That's true. Actually, I think one of the best things, and it might sound actually really petty, but one of the things that are most giving you satisfaction in life is being vindicated. Is having a good idea, following your wish to see it through, and seeing that it was a good idea. That's it.
But that's resilience.
I think resilience. You can also be vindicated in your resilience, because you can be resilient. So, for example, Young Goose, just to tell a short story, was a research for about 5 years, but the launch was a couple months before COVID. We launched to businesses, to practitioners, an NAD face cream. The first. By the way, the first sale we ever had was a competitor that then back engineered a product. Long story, but we had to take all the products back because COVID hit, and they said, hey, we're in trouble. And again, being someone who has a strong sense of what it means to be in other people's shoes, they said, you know what, I can manage, I can pivot, but they cannot pivot. They don't have the business model to pivot.
Yeah.
So we took back all the product. We were already in a 10x run because we were freaking out. We sold out in a couple months, so we were freaking out. So we were left with a lot of product and not a lot of money to get the product out. And within the next year, which I believe you met us at the end.
Yeah, you were still in the struggle.
Yes, for sure, 100%. Yeah. But we already had some kind of light at the end of the tunnel.
Correct, I remember that.
Yeah. So, but in the early stages of that, having zero knowledge of how to sell a product online, having a market that is now everyone pivoted to online. Yeah. Online sales, direct-to-consumer sales, and basically having no tokens, no chips to play in the game. You're looking at a poker game. That's the game of your life, and you have no chips. So how do you do it? If there were moments there that resilience was needed, but it doesn't have to be, right? If everything went well, there was no COVID, maybe we were a B2B company, and I would still say one of the best things you can have in life is being vindicated, because there were a lot of in order to get to that point, in order to follow your idea, there's a lot of resilience that needs to happen there and can take milliseconds. It's like the Big Bang, right? A lot of things can happen in milliseconds.
But why vindicated? That's the wording
maybe
of
vindicated
that is very strong. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. Maybe because I want to convey the suddenness of the feeling when you realize that you're at second base. I'm not saying I'm not saying you finished a home run, but you're in second base. Your idea has legs. What you do from there, it is not the idea's fault, it's your fault. So I think this is one of the best things you can experience in life, the realization that you were right and you're on a good path, and the decisions you made led you to a positive trajectory. I think other things can make you feel great. This is definitely one of those things.
I think that you just defined what an entrepreneur should be. By definition, an entrepreneur is the one that will follow his ideas, not dreams, but ideas, and against the wind and against resistance and against the odds, will always say, I know that I'm right, and I'm going to have the legs to run that marathon or triple marathon alone. If that is the question, you lose your friend, you lose your family, you lose everyone around. but that's an entrepreneur. And those are the successful entrepreneur versus the entrepreneur that are listening to their entourage and keep failing after business after businesses.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is true for two different outlooks. The first outlook is the lonely path of an entrepreneur, which is 100% true. You almost need to have to be a prerequisite. Like if we go all the way back to Think and Grow Rich, and the fact that he said, Napoleon Hill said, it is easy. Don't become an excellent professional. Don't become an expert at a certain field. Hire experts at a certain field. That's much easier to do. So I think it's definitely that's easy to do. It's not easy to think that way. Again, it's the same thing as what I said before about when the struggle happens. In order to get to that point, a lot needs to happen for you to make those decisions. The second thing is to be an entrepreneur, you have to have a sense of enjoying the road.
Masochism, you mean?
Masochism, type of a broader look at life, loving what you do. Obviously, there is a different chemical. I mean, your brain, whether you're suffering and you are perceiving it as something you chose or something that is inflicted upon you, your brain actually, these are completely two different set of chemical responses. So that's a chemical prerequisite, I feel like, of an entrepreneur, to feel like this is a chosen path rather than a path that was inflicted upon you.
Yeah, I agree on that. So why did you choose to be an entrepreneur after getting from the military? That's one question. The second question that will go along with that is, from a bar in cosmetics and skincare, what a jump. Tell me.
Yeah, 100%. So first of all, I realized that fighting wrinkles is more lucrative than fighting people, and you get paid more. What happened, I am not someone who sold lemonade at the corner at the age 10. I'm not an entrepreneur that is driven by financial means or by physical means. And I think I almost view it as a disadvantage, quite frankly. I actually, when I see someone that, for example, Dan Sullivan, that is talking about wanting things just for the sake of wanting them, not apologizing for them, realizing that no one will give you anything. And also, exactly. So I'm not driven by that. No. So I was never, it never crossed my mind. Actually, I remember myself at 17 years old, just wishing to have a time machine to travel to age 30, and just that my 30-year-old self will tell me everything's going to be okay, because I really didn't know what I'm going to be in the, I swear, I didn't know what I'm going to be in the world. I also wanted to say how my wife looked like, but that's a different story. Yeah. That's a horny 17.
Are you happy now?
Very, very.
She's behind you.
Yeah. Yeah, so definitely. But what happened was this. So I fell in love, again, as we kind of started this conversation, I fell in love with the idea of leadership, with the idea of creating results as a group, and with thinking differently. I think that was what really drove me long run. And that you have to be an entrepreneur to implement. You cannot be a contrarian working for someone else. It's actually, even if you're a contrarian working for someone else, since they're making a decision, even if your idea is contrarian, by that idea being accepted, that idea isn't appealing to you anymore.
Correct.
As a contrarian. So it sucks out all the energy out of that inclination. And I have that inclination in a very powerful way. But leaving the military, I had a very short stint where I had a cousin who said, I have this bar, let's really, it could be amazing. And within 4 months, we lost all the money, and I had to find something else to do.
But you had fun in 4 months.
I had a lot of fun, and I had a lot of fun. Not only that I had a lot of fun, the reason we lost all the money is because of the fun that was had.
That's the thing, yeah. Tequila Sunrise, the movie.
Exactly. So I basically had to capitulate. And back then in Israel, it was the beginning stages of the tech revolution that now Israel Israel's 50% of Israel's GDP is what we call high tech, which is a sector within tech, but let's say that the tech sector. But it only employs 10% of the population, so you can imagine how lucrative it is. So I, being a contrarian, I said, okay, I gotta go into that field, but I didn't want to go into this field like everyone else. So basically, the reason you are hired as a, with my experience in special operations, team building in tech industries, in order to do that, to be a leader and to build teams. And that's actually very, very appealing to a tech company, because it's very hard to get
find
people
leaders.
to do that. It's much easier to find a coder.
Absolutely. And even though you don't need them anymore. So
exactly.
But the funny thing is, like what you said, finding the great leaders that are like inspirational, inspiring people are super difficult. You have people managing others, you find a ton of these guys, but great leaders are very rare. And now the industry, whatever the sector actually, they're looking at ex-military and sports guy.
Yes.
Like basketball player, football players, these guys that have been into building teams and cohesion between members. Interesting. I've been a wolf, a solo wolf my whole life, and it took me a long time to understand that I need other people. I need to surround myself with other people, with other talent, because I was honestly convinced that I could learn everything that it was possible to learn and do everything by myself.
Yeah. It's funny. Before I continue, you and Anastasia my wife remind me of each other very much in that aspect, because Anastasia is I call her the female Warren Buffett. She's incredible, brilliant woman, dealt with research of like cancer and some liver diseases, and then said, you know what, let me help you with this skincare company. But what she does very well is, again, she has an incredible judge of character. But she, the problem is that she also is such a high performer, really no one can keep up. So what happens was, now that she went into maternity leave, she has all this amazing talent on the teams that she built in our company, in Young Goose. But when I had to take over, I don't have that capacity. I don't have that output. I cannot have that output. So I realized everyone there is underperforming, because they always look up to her to tell them what to do in the end. And my analogy is that we were using gold and paying only by using the weight that the gold is worth, not by the worth of gold. Well, let me give it 10 kilos of something. You can use it. Can use it as to hold your paper. Oh, it looks, But thankfully, really what she does very well is a judge of character. It's quite incredible. Anyway, so going back to the story, I realized I wanted to do something a little bit different, and I got interviewed by this very tiny company that had a therapeutic laser that said, we have this problem right now, actually, because this industry, we're afraid LEDs are going to come into the picture, and the industry might not go as well as we expected, so we can't pay you as well, blah, blah, blah. And I said, wow, that's actually something I'm very interested in. Let's see how we kind of take over that industry that you're seeing. That is, it's a rumor. It's like COVID in December 2019. There's no evidence around you
that is coming.
But it's coming. And I started basically building the teams for that company and understanding how we penetrate the market, the consumer market, with a product that everyone actually think is snake oil. Red light therapy, now you look around you say, how could someone Brian Johnson's talking about it like it's he does it every day. Gary Brecka, I don't know who is very famous. Joe Rogan, I don't know who's famous and talking about it. So by now, people who are kind of newer to the field and didn't know about it, 10, 15 years ago, accept it as an accepted modality. My experience from 12 years ago is an experience of someone that really people look at him like he's out of his mind to tell them that a red light can affect their biology. But that really was interesting to me, because the research was there. The research actually started in the 60s. So that was my what I decided to do, and I have a lot of stories from that time. But that's the first time I was interested in appearance, in skin rejuvenation, and the reason is this because we talked to those people about how it can help their patients. Again, our connections were with doctors, so because of the therapeutic laser. So we talked to these people that they have a therapy center for paraplegics in Denver. And we said, this can help you with phantom pain. It can help you with this. It can help you with that. They can take it home. They're like, and it can also take care a little bit. Your skin's going to look better. And they're like, their face lit up. Oh, really? It can help with wrinkles. So pain and wrinkles were the two things that really struck home with people. And obviously... And we really tried to push the envelope as a strategy. We didn't really concentrate on that as you do today. I think red light therapy today understood that and really aims towards that, even though there are difficulties now. If you're interested only in skin appearance, you're going to make a flexible mask that does very little, maybe nothing, but again, just as a side note.
That's the problem. Are you still using red light therapy today?
Yes, I do, but I use it locally. So I think systemically, like most people do it, actually does not give people the benefit they think. It mainly gives them benefits. Yeah, it mainly gives them benefits through their eyes.
Eyes, regeneration of the mitochondria and things like that. Yeah,
but I agree. But not systemically. You are actually feeding a closed feedback loop to your cells to actually stop making a lot of energy. Because So when you hear again famous people saying, I get into my red light therapy bed every day, I'm saying, wow, that is a waste of time. But so the story was this company got sold, moved to the United States, met Anastasia, had some crazy ideas, had money, crazy ideas, had nothing to do basically after, the contract that the sentence I served, I call it. Being a part of a big company again wasn't my thing.
That's a good word.
Yeah. And we started a consultancy called Hormesis. We worked with some red light therapy brands. We worked with other Israeli startups that looked to do what we did. Back then, there was no such thing called biohacking. But we called it consumer-facing medical devices because that's a lot of what biohacking is taking a medical device and facing it to the consumer. So consulted a lot of these guys, had an incredible ride, but something that you and I have really, not to put words into your mouth, but really have, I'd say, dedicated a significant part of our lives to combat is the problem that the biohacking health optimization field has with pseudo products. They're not pseudo products, they're pseudo beneficial products.
I would say fake.
Fake products.
That's it.
Fake claims, fake products. And the problem is when you are working for money and you're consulting people that actually, some of the fake products, they cost so little to make. And they sell for so much money, they have a lot of money to pay you. It became a field that we actually didn't want to engage with a lot. By the research around Young Goose became more robust, and we decided to, again, create a company out of it. And through that, by the way, I was in a CEO, CFO roundtable of hospitals, trying to figure out how to solve some of the health trends that unfortunately we did not solve, and that's why.
It's still not solved.
No. But what we dealt with is more the future of healthcare questions, like what will happen when
shift.
What will happen when insurance companies will realize that they will not be able to pay for people's medical expenses or HR issues, things like that. But it's been a wild ride. Right now, it seems like, again, we're in a, growth normally happens in the contraction phase. You expand, you expand. Let's think about growing muscle, okay? Let's think about growing muscle. You don't actually look, a bodybuilder doesn't actually look that great when they raise their muscle mass because fat comes together with it. Then they actually lower their calorie intake. They don't grow as much, but they look better because there is less fat. And the companies work like that as well. You grow, but then you trim the fat, and then that's when profitability happens.
I like the analogy. It's pretty cool, actually. Many startups are raising money like that, and they spend tons of money in doing shitty stuff. And when it's time to pay back, they trim the fat.
Well, that's I had a discussion about WeWork with someone recently. I'm Israeli, so half the people ask me about WeWork because the guy Adam Neumann was Israeli. And just as a contrarian, I took the side of Adam Neumann because the other person was taking the side of the populist news cycle that said, Adam Neumann deceived a lot of people. If they were representing, I would always take devil's advocate. But what I said was Adam Neumann just never got the opportunity to trim the fats, or he never took the opportunity to trim the fat. He always wanted to grow. And he basically popped the bubble of for growth startups and companies raising funds. Where you're always raising funds, going through a burnout, and then increasing the value of the company to the extent where you can raise more funds.
But Amazon is the same. Never been profitable except last year, I think.
Amazon is the same. I think Tesla had a lot of back and forth about it. Any type of cryptocurrency in order to actually survive, or actually any currency in order to survive. Even the American debt works like that, where it works not only against the debt and repaying that debt, or the need to pay the redundancy of that debt, but it is also working against the growth in production and the growth of GDP, which allows it to increase its debt. So that's how economics work, even though it is under the table, because admitting it actually pops that bubble.
Yeah, and it's the same, to go back to what you said before, health insurance worked the same way. What is important for them? Cash flow.
Oh yeah. So I think the way around it is doing things that creates value, creates affluence out of thin air, if you would. What I mean by that is, if you are a great mechanic, or a great if you're a person who restores cars, let's go back to that analogy, and you took a 69 Mustang or whatever that is all beat up, Bronco, and that is all beat up, and actually you bought it for, there is a guy in Miami. Do you know the guitar and car store in Wynwood?
Yeah. I was always wondering, what the hell is that?
So as far as I know, as far as what I was told in the store, the guy went to Venezuela when Venezuela had a very, very big financial crisis more in the beginning, when there was still like luxury cars, etc. But people weren't able to maintain them because there were no parts, but also these people didn't think it's that important anymore, and bought them for pennies on the dollar, brought them back in the United States, fixed them, etc. And now they're worth much more. So when we take something that doesn't have value and we imbue it with value, or we actually create something, even if you create a beautiful painting, by the way, we took paint that in canvas that isn't worth much, and we or whatever, and we created wealth. So that is a way out of this cycle of for growth mentality, right? Someone could claim that by the time that the painting is being created, the person needs to eat. So there is some type of pro-growth mentality. But for the most part, creating wealth that isn't tied to monetary investment necessarily is a way to get out of this loop a lot of the times.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you on that, 100%. You made it that way with your company. I remember maybe 10 years ago, a company from California was trying to enter the market of skincare, adding all sorts of components. And it was a local doctor in cosmetic surgeon that was mixing up his own cream and was selling that like $300 a box. And I remember buying that because he was making promises that it worked, and he had a story behind it.
Yeah. It's funny. I was just talking to the person who runs our Instagram, and they wanted to say, this is like Botox. And I said, hey, that's the worst thing you can say.
Yeah.
Not only because it is not only because it's not truthful, it's because that can affect people's decisions. Let's say someone likes Botox, right? And they are now going to believe us because they believed us with our previous claims, and they really worked. And we say, hey,
and you have a certification that proves
we have a lifespan certification. So it's that's it. Lifespan certification says it all.
Yeah.
But they want to say, hey, this is instead of Botox. And what I said, this is how you lose credibility, right?
Yep.
if you want to say, hey, Botox, these are the benefits, and there are really cool benefits around Botox, like improves mental health.
Yeah. Oh, because of the appearance that you can have in the morning.
Well, maybe also, but because there is something called micromimicry. Micromimicry means, this is a different part of Botox. But in order for me to feel sad, I need to have a sad expression. If in order for me to feel worried, I need to have a contracted expression. If I cannot make those expressions, my brain does not perceive sadness as much. And there is actually a lot of studies around people having to smile in front of the mirror and feeling better. There is also something, what I refer to as micromimicry, by the way. You have a harder time extrapolating or understanding other people's expressions because
they have no expression anymore.
I have to micromimic you. Anyway, but and that was actually replicated, this study, so it's not like a one-off. But what I was saying was, we can say, hey, these are the things that you can that are not positive about Botox. These are benefits. These are some of the things that are not positive. What we have is this, and this could be your solution if you're interested in reducing wrinkles or reducing laxity in your skin or looking younger. That could be, but and that would be sincere. That would be congruent with data as well. But I think the problems are the claims, and that is something that as a company we subtly we try to communicate in a subtle fashion without ruffling too many feathers, because at the end of the day we are trying to we're trying to walk a very fine line. We're a young company, we are a lean company, but we are also a revolutionary company, so it's a very fine line. You can't annoy people too much, you can't annoy the big dogs too much,
but you need to create chaos to make something out of it.
You do, but you need to do it with butterfly flaps. You don't need to do it with with I don't know what, with a
gentle chaos at the other side of the planet.
Exactly. So we actually are trying to fight with verbiage that allows companies to claim claims, not stand behind them, and not only not stand behind them, also not be accountable if people do complain to the authority like the FDA. Why? Because companies can say the appearance of, so I can improve the appearance of wrinkles or blah blah blah. Why?
You cannot remove wrinkles.
I can also not claim a biological process if I haven't proved it. So companies a lot of the times use very, very deceiving ways of communication without being able to be called into question. Even the word anti-aging, if we just think of the word, you're not stopping aging.
No,
and by the way,
it's impossible. Like the definition of that word is like very complex.
By the way, you cannot even, so when you and I think about anti-aging, we think of a younger looking person, but that's not what anti-aging means at all. There is no connection between. So actually, I like, if we do think about the philosophical part of the word, I actually am not against it. Lowering the rate of aging is something that we should thrive, and we're thriving too. But I like the word pro-youth much better.
I like that too. Yeah, I like that.
I don't like to be anti-anything.
Anti-conformist. You are probably.
I'm anti being. So we are trying to be gently changing the norms of discussions. Obviously, we're not big enough to do that. But if another part of our conversation before was about living a happy life and making decisions that with purpose. A lot of what you're trying to do is understanding that in the grand things scheme of things, you are not moving and shaking, but you're causing the chaos through flaps of butterfly wings. So
we go back to the same principle we've been talking several times, the baseline, and it's the same for skincare. If you don't have the baseline, whatever you do on the top of it doesn't bring you anything. So if you don't have the baseline, natural behaviors that are part of your lifestyle, biohacking doesn't serve your cause. If your skin and you eat badly and you overexpose your skin and everything, and you don't have that baseline, you can put tons of cosmetic on top of it. They're not going to work either. Now, I have a question for you. Many people are under the impression that everything that happens to your skin, it's 80% due to the inside and 20% due to the outside. Is it correct?
It's actually exactly the opposite. Exactly the opposite. So terminology-wise, there is something called intrinsic aging and extrinsic aging. Aging that comes from your chronological processes or processes that happen through time from the inside. And we can talk about them, like happens to every cell. The issue with our skin is that it is the first line of defense from the environment.
Right.
So actually, extrinsic aging is responsible for 80% of what aging is. Extrinsic factors are responsible for 80% of what aging in the skin is. And I'll give you another statistic that is quite surprising. You probably will say, and that would not be specifically wrong, but you would say, well, most of it is probably our exposure to UV radiation. And you will not be wrong. The problem is that if you live in Miami, if you live in any city, really, there are other factors that cumulatively actually age your skin more than UV radiation. Why is that? First of all, it's because we, as human beings, were supposed to be outside for the majority of the day. And since most of our evolution, we were in sub-Saharan Africa, we're not designed to be under direct sunlight, kind of between 10 to 4. Okay. So any other time, night, day, whatever, we're designed to be outside. And that's the majority of the day, 70% of the day, more or less. But a human normally is 95% of their time indoors right now, in their house, in their car, in their office. So that's number one. Number two is drivers that are non-native. Okay, we actually are pretty good. Our body is pretty good. It has not only processes but redundancies. So process upon process to deal with natural pro-aging mechanisms, such as UV radiation. So oxidative stress, free radicals that are based on oxygen, or actually your body actually has glutathione, has different processes to deal with it, melatonin. But what it cannot deal, it has no idea how to deal with, are non-oxygen based free radicals. So pollution, for example. It doesn't know how. Yeah. So it has no idea how to deal with it. It cannot even shed it from the skin. So there's a process called sticky skin. There's also leaky skin, but sticky skin means that you have pollutants and heavy metals, glyphosates, things that are not only irritants and come in contact with your skin, but stay and build up on your skin.
Wow.
So, and by the way, there are pretty easy strategies that people can do in order to prevent that. Ubiquinone is actually one of them, taking CoQ10. But for the most part, that's something to be considered. So I would say, you have 20% intrinsic, 40% UV radiation, and another 40% that it is heavy metals, pollution, EMF radiation.
Yeah, there's not that many proofs about the EMF. Huh?
For the skin, there is. So for the skin, there is. But the thing about EMF, actually, it's very interesting. The thing about EMF and more native pro-inflammatory, pro-aging agents are that they weaken the overall resilience of the skin. And not only, and you're talking about proof that which we could talk about, but I would actually, we can infer the effects when we do something like attach an antioxidant to your sunblock when you go outside, or expose you to red light, near infrared, and even far infrared like saunas before, a heavy dose of sun exposure. Interesting. And there's actually a very interesting study out of the Yonsei University in Seoul, Korea, showing a very beautiful reduction of physical hyperpigmentation and DNA damage, or even melanogenesis in general, the creation of pigment due to the irradiation of the skin with red and near infrared. And there is another study called the triangle of reactive oxygen species that talks about far infrared. So there is evidence. And by the way, so to what I said before about an antioxidant attached to your sunblock, it actually doubles the effectiveness of sunblocks. Doubles. That's a study out of Australia. So where there is more UV that is damaging the skin than for us here in America, for example. So we not only that there is data of it just being a generator of free radicals, for example, there's also data what happens when we lower the free radical load, and how does that affect when we are so red, near infrared, far infrared. They all have a reaction of lowering reactive oxygen species, the skin, kind of a natural antioxidant ability. So and increasing increasing the ability of the mitochondria to handle things. So again, we can look at it in two different ways. Oh, there is damage. And hey, look what happens when I nullify some of that stress.
Yeah, I agree. Some people even say something opposite to what you just said. Like if you don't expose your skin naturally to the sun, you actually lower your ability to respond to the sun exposure.
I wouldn't say, first of all, yes, it's true. It's called melanin. It's called pigment. But there is a very finite limit to. First of all, you are incurring damage while getting more melanin. Did someone not realize that? Like it's not a perfect, there is no perfect scenario. That's number one.
No.
Number two, but that's what you're referring to is something called a solar callus, which means I can build some kind of tolerance to sun damage.
Like we do for cold plunges, or we build tolerance.
Actually, this is a deep discussion, but I will try to keep it digestible. I would say this: you're talking about benefits you're going to get from the sun alongside building resilience. Okay, these two things cancel out each other. Why? Because we're talking about UV rays being absorbed by different photoacceptors, by different processes in your body. Your supposed solar callus nullifies so it absorbs them and converts them into heat, melanin. Okay, it's either you're saying I'm not going to get benefits anymore, or the benefits are going to be diminished, or you're not building that solar callus. That's number one. Number two, I saw some people who have great content online, and I treat them with respect.
There's few, not many,
but I'll treat them with respect, and I'm sure they create beautiful improvement in people's lives. And I'm not being cynical by saying that. I know they mean well, as we said in the beginning. No one thinks that they're the bad guy, right?
Yeah.
So, but they are saying solar callus, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you're going to increase an expression of an acid called UCA. Okay. Now, so that would be a kind of rebuttal to what I'm saying. Oh, melanin.
Yeah.
But, and if anyone goes to my Instagram, I actually wrote about it. So you could look at it in length. But UCA absorbs UVC, which doesn't reach Earth anyway, predominantly.
Yeah.
And to give you like something to hold on to, if you looked at peak UCA expression, you're looking at an SPF rating of less than 1. Okay? Less than 1.
Yeah.
So there is no, it's a silly discussion. What I would say is that you do want to expose yourself to the sun. You do,
but
you want to carefully, and you want to do it in the early for so many reasons.
Yeah, you gave that bracket 10 to 4. That is so crucial.
Yeah, and also depends where you are in the world. By the way,
of course,
if
you can be outside 10 to 4 in Canada and you're freezing.
10 to 4, it's like an ice bath in Canada. But actually, what happens is that the closer the sun is to the horizon, the less blue light can travel to you because it has high absorption in water. And more red light, near infrared, etc., can travel to you because it has lower absorption in water. So you're getting those wavelengths that can not even the wavelengths that assist you to deal with blue light near UV. By the way, that's a new that's actually a therapeutic wavelength called near UV, but it also is damaging, and UVA, UVB. So in order to deal with them, we need those wavelengths together with them, red, near infrared. The problem with sun high up in the sky is not the excess UV. It is definitely a part of it, but the big problem is the lack of red and near infrared. The ratio.
The ratio.
Of course there is.
Yeah. It's interesting because it stands very solid, and the proof that you're not saying BS. Before you said, like, if you want to go to expose yourself to your skin to sun, you need to prepare your skin with infrared therapy would be a nice thing. And now, if I look at the natural behaviors that were dictated by the human species on this planet, if you look at the sunrise in the morning, you're exposing yourself to the benefit of the sun that you're going to get right after that. and it goes along the day. So it makes sense. It stands very well. Thank you for sharing this knowledge. It's beautiful. Cool.
Yeah, what you said was summarize it very well. There is data showing that you deal better with kind of noon sun if you were exposed to it at 6 a.m.
The sun. Yeah. Instead of putting your face on the lamp, go outside. First, you're going to get a walk, and then you're going to go see the sunrise. Your mood is going to be best, and your skin is going to be ready for the sun. All the benefit of it. I love it. Amitay, thank you so much. This time flew. I like every time we're talking, it goes from topics to topics. It's beautiful. I'm going to see you this weekend, I think. Huh?
Yeah, we're going to see each other in a few days.
Yeah. So thank you, my brother. Love you. It was awesome. We're going to send people to all the links that you have in the caption. But as a conclusion, maybe you can say some words about your company and where to find you and find your product, please.
Yes. So if anyone's interested in going into those rabbit holes, again, we have a podcast called Biohacking Beauty Podcast. Jean was just a guest there. This is a very good kind of source of deep dives into the things we discussed. Our company is called Young Goose. It's younggoose.com. Young like being young, goose like the bird. Our Instagram handle is young_goose_skincare. So check that out. And that's basically it. We're starting a TikTok channel now.
Whoa!
I don't know how it's going to be called. But look for us on TikTok.
Perfect. We're going to take a look at that. Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure having you here.
Thank you.